Hello guys, I'm Ginny. I'll tell you about how I taught my mother-in-law a nice lesson while my husband Stephen supported me and cheered me on. As you can tell, I was never a good daughter-in-law to Sophia. She hated me and was mad that I was taking her son away from her. When I met her, she was a widow but was staying with my husband because my father-in-law had left them both in his house in his will. But Ginny moved out once her father passed away and left his house to her. Ginny had a lot of love for her dad's place since she grew up there. She happily left her marital home and moved back into her house because she loved that place so much. This meant that Stephen and I got to stay in his house alone after our wedding. Sophia came by whenever she wanted because it was her house too. But I wasn't allowed to set foot in her late father's house since she didn't want me to be there. I was a little hurt and found it to be disrespectful, but what can I do? It was her house and I couldn't force her to accept me. I was just glad she wasn't staying with us and creating trouble. My good days were over when Sophia suddenly moved back in with us. She was in a ton of debt due to various reasons and had to sell her house to get rid of them. Selling her portion in her husband's house wouldn't be enough for her, so she was forced to sell her childhood home. Yes, things were that bad. I guess some of you can guess that she had a gambling addiction that got out of control. Anyway, she moved in with us and I had to accept that because, well, she still owned the house I stayed in. I wasn't happy but was determined to make it work. And that was until Sophia came to stay with us and started to make some weird rules around the house. Sophia was acting absolutely entitled and kept saying that I should do her bidding since she was also part owner of my husband's house. She gave me a list of rules that said I would be the only one cooking, cleaning, and taking care of the house because I was a freeloader, in her words. I was also not allowed to have anyone over, and I was expected to leave when Sophia asked me to. At first, I thought that she was joking, but then Sophia started to create problems for me. Every time I wouldn't do her bidding, she would say, "You know what the rules are in my house, Ginny. Why is it so difficult for you to follow them?" "Your rules are wild, Sophia. They are extremely unreasonable. I'm trying to compromise with you, but you keep creating problems. Your rules are stupid and impossible to follow, Sophia." "Well, I don't care what you think. You have to do as I say. You can't stay in this house if you don't follow my rules. Nobody is going to stop you. Actually, I would even say that this is the best option." That was something I wasn't expected to be told. Sophia was asking me to leave the house because I refused to follow her horrible rules. She was acting like a crazy and entitled woman. Just because she had a stake in the house, she was treating me like some maid who lives off her for free. I was extremely mad and in complete disbelief as I said, "What is this nonsense, Sophia? Do you really want to throw me out of the house?" "Yes, I expect you to leave and find your own place. You have no right to be in my house when you don't even want to show me some basic respect and follow my instructions." "I show you plenty of respect, Sophia. It's you who wants me to behave like a servant. That is totally unacceptable. It's my way or the highway, Ginny. If you don't like it, you can always leave. Or maybe I will help solve this matter by kicking you out myself." "This is my husband's house too, Sophia. You can't just expect me to leave my own husband's place." "Yes, I can expect that since I am also an owner. If you don't do as I say, I will make your life hell here. I can promise you that." I knew that arguing with Sophia wasn't going to do me any good, so I left without engaging with her anymore. However, she wasn't going to let this go anytime soon. Once the words were out of Sophia's mouth, they got implanted into her brain permanently. Every time I did something she didn't like, she would threaten to throw me out of the house. She continued doing this, and we kept having fights. Sometimes I even gave in and did what she wanted just to keep the peace. I thought I would first try and see if I could manage following some of the rules while she compromised for the rest. My husband was frequently away for his work, so he couldn't defend me as much. Whenever he was home, he would try and talk some sense into his stupid mother. He would say, "Mom, your expectations are truly unreasonable. You can't treat my wife like this." "I didn't do anything wrong. I won't be uncomfortable in my own home because of your stupid wife who doesn't even pay rent." "That does not excuse your behavior, Mom. You are asking way too much of her, and this is not okay. She's not your servant." "She should be doing all the work because she's just a housewife. She doesn't contribute a cent to this house, so she should make up for it in some other way." Her logic was simply bizarre, because that's not how things work. Yes, I'm a housewife and I do my fair share of work and even more. But she too doesn't work anymore and stays with us for free. So I don't see how this logic should only apply to me. I decided to speak up and point out this problem in her logic and said, "You don't contribute a cent to this household too, Sophia. Your logic simply doesn't hold up here. You need to do your fair share of your chores as well. This is the way any household works." "Don't you dare try to lecture me, Ginny. I won't take lessons from you while you live rent-free in my own house. Always remember that I can throw you out and make you get your own place." "Mom, you are being extremely disrespectful to my wife. I also own this place, so you need to understand the fact that she has the right to be here." "And I too have the right to live in my house how I want. You may be fine with your wife being a lazy parasite, but I am not. I am not going to let her disrespect my rules in my own house." Stephen tried his best to make his mother understand that what she was asking of me was extremely unreasonable. However, my mother-in-law couldn't understand her mistake at all. She kept arguing with us until we were both forced to give up. At that point, I knew that I needed to have a backup plan in mind. It was getting increasingly difficult for me to stay with Sophia, and I didn't know what to do. She usually let a few things go when my husband was around, but that wasn't going to work in the long run. He absolutely needed to travel for work and couldn't just stay at home to support me. I was left alone with Sophia for extended periods of time, and it was just destroying my mental health in all ways possible. So, that night, I said to my husband, "I don't think I can bear her much longer, Stephen. She is progressively getting worse every day." "I'm so sorry, Ginny. What can I even do? I tried to make her understand her mistake, but she doesn't want to accept it. I can't kick her out because this is her house too." "I know, Stephen. You don't have to remind me. I'm tired of hearing this from Sophia every day. She leaves no chance to remind me that I don't own this place, but she does." "I wish I could give you a house, Ginny. If my finances would allow me to take a mortgage, I would have. But I don't think I can qualify for it before I get rid of my student loans." "It's okay, Stephen. I'm not blaming you in any way. I wish we had a solution, though. I don't think I can stay with your mother forever like this." Stephen and I talked the entire night about how we needed to find a good solution. We did think of getting a rented apartment somewhere for us to live, but I was mad at the fact that Stephen would have to give up living in his own house just because his mother insisted on being a complete witch. I was really mad at Sophia and the situation we had at hand. I thought about our problem for a long time until I finally found a nice solution. I had been thinking about it for a while and didn't know whether it would be a good idea to go through with it. After dealing with Sophia's horrible attitude and snarky comments, I was starting to think that it would be a good idea after all. So one night, I told my husband, "I think I may have found a solution to our problem, Stephen, but I'm not sure how you'll feel about it." "Oh, what is it, Jeannie?" I promised to keep an open mind and hear you out before being harsh about my judgments. "Well, what do you think about me buying your mom's house?" "Wait, what? You want to buy my mom's house?" "Yes, Stephen, I thought about it and I really like that place. I suppose you like it too, since it was your grandfather's house." "I do like it, Ginny. I actually love that house. But are you sure it's a good idea? Will you be able to afford it?" "I still have the inheritance from my parents, so I can use that to get the place. Your mother would not be happy, though. Not that I care. I don't feel like showing her empathy when she has been so nasty to me. I think it will be difficult for her to digest the fact that I'm buying her house. If I do buy the house, I will move there and won't let your mother stay with us, though. I want to make that very clear." I made my stance very clear to Stephen because I didn't want us to have problems in the future. I laid my cards out on the table and made sure my husband knew what I was planning to do. There was no way I was letting Sophia live with us after I bought the house. I knew she would beg because she was really attached to that place since it was her childhood home, but I wouldn't be allowing her to live with us. I call this karma, but I wasn't sure my husband would find this plan appealing. However, he said, "You're right about that, Ginny. Mom is not going to like what you have in mind, but I think it would be a good idea. At least the house will stay in the family. Mom can just deal with it." "Really? Are you sure about that?" "Well, she's been pretty unreasonable to you, Ginny. If she's hurt that you're taking her house, that's on her. She should be happy you helped to keep it in the family and not angry or jealous that you bought her house and moved into it." I was elated that my husband didn't find any problem with my plan. He was actually encouraging me to buy that house because he didn't want the house to go to some stranger who wasn't even related to the family. If I did buy the house, he would still have a chance to keep a part of his family history with him. So Stephen told me to go ahead with the plan if I really wanted to. After getting the green signal from my husband, I started the process of acquiring Sophia's house. I called her agent and told him that I was interested in making the purchase as long as it could be settled fast. I was running out of patience in the house and dealing with Sophia when my husband was gone, and it was an absolute nightmare. So I wanted to close the deal as soon as possible. The agent promised to talk to his client and get back to me. I was near Sophia when her agent called her, and she started to cry when she heard that she had a potential buyer. I guess even though she needed the money, she had a hard time considering the fact that she was about to lose her childhood home because of her stupidity. I watched her cry and didn't bother to comfort her because I had stopped caring about her entirely. Days passed and we were able to finalize the sale of the house. I took extra care to hide my identity by making my lawyer a nominee for the sale. So Sophia never realized that I was the one buying the house. I had requested a private tour of the house without the owner for my privacy, so Sophia wasn't present when I went to look at her house. I wasn't allowed into the place after Sophia took over because she didn't want me to come to her house. Now, I was not only taking a tour of the place, but also buying it. When I was in the house, all those years of disrespect came rushing back to me. I was craving some revenge, and I really wanted to see Sophia's face when she found out who bought her house. I signed the papers within 10 days, and her house was successfully mine. She was able to pay off her debts, but she cried like a baby on the day that she got the last tour of her old home. Sophia came back to the house and actually amped up her horrible behavior. She got her stuff removed from her old house and started to put everything in our house. She even went to the extent of removing my stuff and throwing it out to accommodate her things. I was away for a family emergency when she had her stuff moved. I wasn't there to witness or stop it from happening. When I got back home, I was surprised to see that she had taken over my closet and removed all my items from it to put her own things inside it. I was super angry when I saw that. I called Sophia and said, "Where is all my stuff? Did you move them?" "Yeah, I moved them and put them in the attic." "Excuse me? Why did you touch my stuff without permission? Also, why do you think you have the right to move my things?" "I can do whatever I want, Ginny. This is my house, so my stuff needs to be in the main spaces. All your stuff can be in the attic, since you don't even have a lease in your name." "What is wrong with you, woman? You can't just expect all my stuff to be in the attic." "Oh yeah? That's exactly where it belongs. If I find anything of yours out of the attic, I will throw it out. Speaking of which, I threw out your plants because I don't want them inside my house. Remember that the next time you think of buying plants." That was the moment when I got even more angry. If you are a plant owner, you would know what I was feeling at that time. I had a decent collection of indoor plants that cost me a lot of money to buy. I also spent a lot of time taking care of them and making sure they were super healthy. But when I was gone for a family emergency, Sophia took it upon herself to throw them out. They were gone forever, since I didn't see them in the front yard or garden. I was mad with anger that she would go this far. I didn't forget about the fact that she had moved my stuff without my permission and had gotten rid of God knows what else. I said, "What is wrong with you, Sophia? They were just plants. You threw out years of my hard work." "Who cares? I said that I didn't want plants in my house. I wouldn't have allowed you to keep them anyway." "I don't care if you own the house, Sophia. You shouldn't have done this. You also shouldn't have put away all of my stuff in the attic without my permission." "I don't need your permission, Ginny. This is my house, not yours. And if you don't like my rules and boundaries, you can get your own place and move." My blood was boiling when she said that. She was acting entitled and cruel yet again. Also, she was still making noise about owning the house and telling me I have no rights here, even when my husband also happened to be a co-owner. Sophia didn't even look bad for being such a nasty witch. She was clearly enjoying taunting me and making me upset. But she had no idea that the tables would turn and she would be the one getting upset. I knew that it was time to show her that I wasn't afraid of her threats anymore. I simply shrugged at her and said, "Okay, I will leave then. I will just move into a new house." "Oh yeah, Ginny? And how do you plan to get a new house?" "I don't need to plan anything, Sophia. I already have a house of my own." "That's a funny joke, Ginny. Pray tell me how you were able to buy a house without money. You were just a housewife after all." "Well, I have my inheritance from my parents. I didn't know what I wanted to do with the money, but when I saw that I needed a house, I went ahead and spent it." "And what were you able to afford, Ginny? A trailer? A tent, maybe, since a trailer would be too much money for you." "Actually, no, Sophia. I happen to have bought your house." "You were being hilarious today, Ginny. Tell me, do you really expect me to believe that you bought my house?" "You don't have to believe me, Sophia. I can show you the proof. Here, take a look at this picture." I showed Sophia a picture of the house deed that I had on my phone. I had taken the picture because the papers were in the safe and I didn't want to take it out. I already had a picture taken for this very occasion, so I utilized it when the chance came for me. Sophia took one look at the picture and turned pale. Gone was her snarky attitude, and it was replaced with the look of shock. She started to get tears in her eyes and said, "What? This is impossible. How could you buy my house?" "Well, I already told you that I had money, Sophia." "No, this can't happen. You can't own my childhood home. A useless housewife like you can't buy my house. It's strange, isn't it, Sophia? After your father died, you didn't let me set foot into your house. Now I've become the owner of the very place. No, this can't happen. You can't live in my house. Now it's time for me to correct you, Sophia. That is not what your house is anymore. It is mine. And I have the right to make my own rules when in my house. You know what that means, Sophia? What? What does it mean? It means that you won't be able to set foot in my house. So you will never see or live in your childhood home again. It will still be in your family, but you will have no access to it. Sophia absolutely burst into tears when I said that. She started to hurl abuses at me and told me that I would die in hell for doing this to her. I happily saw her throw a tantrum and cry her eyes out because her daughter-in-law was now the owner of her childhood home. I guess it stung her just as much as I thought it would. I left Sophia crying and started to pack my stuff because they wouldn't be staying in the attic anymore. They would be in my new house. Stephen and I moved out of our old house and into my new house within a week. That night, Stephen came back from work and Sophia tried to complain to him that I was being unfair and that I shouldn't live in her childhood home. She tried to tell him that she would go back to my house and stay there rent-free. Stephen flat out told his mother that it wouldn't be happening. She didn't take that well and said a lot of nasty stuff about me. After that, Stephen made the decision to cut off contact with her for good. He was willing to pay for her groceries and all utilities even after moving out, but the last big fight made him realize that he shouldn't be helping out someone who was so nasty to his wife. We moved into our new home and started to decorate it as we wanted. There was also some painting and mild renovation we did, which drove Sophia crazy. She called me and cried to me that I shouldn't do this to her house, and that's when I reminded her again that it was my house and I could do whatever I wanted. She didn't like that, and she said that I was disrespecting her. I just said, "My house, my rules," and laughed. Sophia wasn't happy to find her own logic thrown back in her face. After we left, she struggled to stay afloat with her debts and grocery bills. She wasn't having a great time, and she begged me and her son to help her again. She even showed up at my new house and had expected to be welcomed inside. I simply left her standing on the front porch until she cried and left after realizing that she had lost all rights to her childhood home because of her own actions.